This is a video I've been kind of dreading doing for a few months now. Mainly for one reason, and that's that when you do these kind of room tours and I'm walking around and I'm pointing at a wall or I'm pointing at a corner or I'm pointing at an area and I'm saying, I want to get this done, I want to put this there and I want to change this and I want to start this and do that. There's an expectation that by the next room tour, something would have changed, that these things would have happened. You don't want to be looking at room tour after room tour and it's the same room, but every single year you're just kind of talking about how it'll be different, but it's actually exactly the same. And the biggest culprit for this is obviously the Lego City. I've been talking about it for the last 4 years, longer if you count just in person. And of course, another year's gone by where it's not there, for one reason or the other. And frankly, at this point, it's embarrassing. Like, what? 4 years is such an absurd amount of time for nothing to have changed. Now, the last few times that there's been a delay or there's been a reason that it hasn't happened, there was a justification for it. Like last year, for example, I was really busy and then I didn't have any money. It's like, what can you do? But going into last year, going into 2024, I had an entire year to make progress on it. I didn't expect any roadblocks. I genuinely expected more progress by now, and frankly, yeah. I'll go into the other room in a bit and I'll show you what's actually being done, and there's not going to be a city in there, I'll tell you that much. But before I get into all that, I might as well show you this room, because there is actually stuff in there and there's stuff to see. So before I get into showing you what's actually changed with the room, I might as well introduce our special guest. Here's Mr. Charles. Say hello, buddy. So, the first and most obvious thing that's changed in this room since the last time is this bed frame. Now, the reason this bed frame is in here is that for a good chunk of last year, this room was kind of like a second bedroom. There was one reason or the other where I needed to sleep in here. When plasterers were in the other room, or when there was general work being done in the other room, I didn't want to be in the way. I didn't want to be just sleeping there or getting stuff all over the bed, you know what I mean? And that's also why this is there. This is the clothes rack. It's usually out in the hall, but I found that when I was sleeping in here that the room would get way too bright way too quickly, to a point that it was disrupting my sleep. And this window doesn't have any blinds on it, so it was just constantly this brightness kind of keeping me awake. So this is kind of like a last ditch attempt. I thought, okay, this might block some of the light. And by sheer coincidence, it actually like fits in this gap fairly perfectly. So, you know, it's just kind of stayed there. I mean, nothing else was going on in that corner. It was just a mess last year anyway, so at least it's kind of useful now. Now, another consequence of this bed frame being in there and there being work done in the other room is that I also had a lot of Lego in the other room. If you look at this screenshot from last year, or this short clip from last year, you can see I just had modular buildings thrown around the floor. So what we did was, before any of that work happened, we moved all of those modular buildings into this area. Right now, though, it's fairly spacious. It's fairly decent. You still can't really walk in here, but like, if I needed to get something from that corner, for example, I could step and get it, you know, it's no big deal. In terms of what's in here, nothing much has changed. The Speed Champions cars, those are all in here at the moment. They'll find their place eventually, but for now, this is just kind of where they are. And there's a few modular buildings on the floor, but not too much. Outside of here, we do have more of the modular buildings kind of spilled out onto this bed frame. I moved them out here specifically because I wanted to start doing Mills plate conversions on them. I haven't done any of that yet, with the exception of Brick Cross, but that was only Mills plated because I was in the process of building it and I had the pieces and so on. Notre Dame is also not getting Mills plated. It's just there because I have nowhere else to put it. Like, the architecture sets are supposed to be in here, up on these 2 rows there, but these 2 shelves are completely full. There's absolutely no space for Notre Dame up there, so I'm going to need to rethink my architecture layout. So what else has changed in here? I suppose looking at the Lego Star Wars stuff, the playsets specifically, I didn't actually get a lot of the Lego Star Wars sets that came out last year. I got the Rebuild the Galaxy stuff, oh, and the Onyx Cinder there. But other than that, I kind of feel like I skipped over a lot of them. My minifigure layout needs an update. I haven't actually expanded it in a while, but I have like all the Rebuild the Galaxy stuff, a few Skeleton Crew stuff, some Mandalorian Season 3, and also there's the Jewel on Peridia with a bunch of other minifigures, and I just need to expand this by 1 or 2 steps to just actually fit them all in. I'm actually debating breaking up this minifigure display into multiple smaller ones, like show-based or era-based, which I think could look cool if I like garnish it with like a MIDI-scale ship from that era or something. It's like an idea that's going around, but nothing's changed as of yet. Oh, one thing that has changed actually is this section here used to just be the Mos Eisley Cantina, but I've got a bunch of Ninjago sets here now. I mean, actually, this is this. And this, actually. Oops. Yeah, I think this and Rivendell go really well together. They have this, like, colourful trees thing going on between both of them, and, like, landscaping. It's just, it's cool. No new helmet sets came out last year, so this is unchanged. Now, one area that has changed a bit is over in this corner with the UCS stuff. Now, I'm kind of in the middle of building Barad-dûr at the moment, so that's why there's pieces and bags thrown all around the place. Oh, Charlie wants to leave. See you, buddy. So yeah, this corner, this like UCS kind of corner has changed a bit. I think the only thing that's changed with this desk is that I have the ornithopter just on my PC. Beside the PC though, I have this bunch of boxes, and inside these boxes are Mills plate pieces. So for example, 4x4 green plates, a bunch of 2x3 bricks. In here are 2x2 bricks, and so on. Like in every one of these boxes, there's some component to the Mills plating process, and I just have them all here beside my desk, and the idea is that I'll go through my build modular buildings one by one and just kind of sit here and convert them over. Beside this, there's an extra shelving unit thing here. Now this was in the other room, but again, it was one of those things that I just needed to move to make space. Now the original idea was that it would be temporarily put here, but I actually kind of like it. I really like how the venator just kind of fits in, you know, it's not sticking out too much on either end, it's nicely positioned, it's amidst the rest of the UCS sets. I really like it there. Instead of just sitting on its box in the middle of the floor, I think that's just an upgrade. It's also nice to have the spare pieces so close to me, because it means that cleaning up after I've built a set is really quick. I just kind of plonk it there. Or if I need any of these spare pieces, it's quickly at hand instead of having to go all the way into the other room. The Countach is also only there temporarily, I just haven't moved it yet. But these two I'm quite liking here as well, the two Technic hypercars that I have. Something about the scale and the colours, I think it just works. And it's nice to have them nearby because I think they're really cool builds, and it's nice to look at them and be reminded. Now at the moment this blind is open, but that's not the case all the time. In fact, most of the time it's closed. So, you know, sun damage isn't a concern here. I don't have that open and constantly discoloring these things. It's almost always closed. It's just for the sake of lighting in this video. Other than that, I moved the Falcon from there to there. I think it looks better there, like amidst the rest of the UCS sets, and it's a bit more out of the way. I could even potentially put another shelf there, so you know, it's good like that. And I think the only other thing that's changed this year is I got the UCS TIE Interceptor. Pretty disappointing set, I'll say. I think it looks good with these other four sets, and you know, on its own it's good, but I don't know, it doesn't quite grab me, you know. Not like the UCS Django's Slave One will next year. I think that's pretty much everything that's changed in this corner, and with that I feel like that's almost everything that's changed in this room this year. The 3 Lego art sets that were up there, I took them down. You might have seen them. They're just the other side of this wall in the cubby there. And the reason for that is I needed space for the dioramas, the MIDI scale stuff, and General Grievous up there, which were on the shelf in the other room, which I'll show you in a minute, but I needed to make space for them. And this was 3 good shelves of real estate that was taken up by 3 relatively small sets with the Lego art stuff. So this just made sense. It was the only place I could put it, really. One thing worth mentioning is that this is still supposedly the area for the VR. The problem with that is that I just don't use the VR, and I needed the space for other things. And I mean, to be frank, filling the space with Lego like this, even though this is a very temporary and makeshift setup, doing this does bring me more joy than the VR did. Like the VR, I was kind of forcing myself to play. It was always more inconvenient to set up than the enjoyment of playing it was worth. I don't know, I expected to get a lot more use out of it than I did, so I'm not too upset about this chair being just kind of randomly in the way, or some sets being on the floor, or this bed being in the way. In terms of future goals, nothing's really changed. I'll upgrade these to be the IKEA Billy shelves, or packed units or whatever. Might add more in this corner as well, maybe push the chair out. But yeah, there's definitely room to improve, and I plan to do it at some point, hopefully by the next room tour, but we'll see. And now we go to the other room. And here we are in the other room, and you can immediately tell it's pretty barren, not gonna lie. So before I get into why this is so barren and why nothing really has changed since last year, I may as well show you what has changed. Now the most obvious thing is this wall is kind of painted. The first coat of it is done, kind of. So this paint, by sheer coincidence, happens to be the same color as in the other room. That wasn't intentional. I did a whole bunch of swatches trying to decide which color I wanted. I even considered like a rich teal for all of it, but I thought that might be a little bit intense. It might detract from the Lego or whatever. But yeah, word of advice if you're painting a room is that when you swatch it out and you put it in like a small area, it looks a lot brighter than it actually ends up being. Like when I originally planned it, I thought this shade of grey would be almost white, like it'd be just about a shade darker than the white. But then when I actually painted it all and it dried and everything, it actually became like what I would consider to be like 3 shades darker, and then that ended up being the same color as the other room. So I did also play with the idea of maybe painting the walls in this area a different color, maybe like a blue color, and obviously the reason for that, city there, blah blah blah. I was thinking about doing something similar to what like Brixie or Brickcrafts do, where they have like a painted cloud mural on the walls around it. I thought that would be a nice way to get like a nice looking backdrop. But the problem with that is I didn't really want to split the room into 2 colors, so I thought about, okay, well, what if I get like a color of blue to put here, put clouds on it, and then it kind of looks like a sky. But then as it goes this way, there obviously won't be clouds on it, and if the blue looks good, then it works as a bedroom. The problem with that is, when you think about like a sky blue walls in a bedroom, that's like, you know, a child's bedroom. You know, I'm not 4. So I thought about going a bit darker, and every time I went kind of more towards what would be appropriate for a bedroom, it kind of strayed further away from what would be a sky. So, you know, abandoned that idea, let's say. But yeah, anyways, in terms of what's actually changed in this room, if you remember, there was a few things that needed to be done before I would move everything back in here. Plastering, paint, carpet, in that order. Now, the plastering took a long time to get done, but it did eventually get done. This is how it looks. And I kind of like how it looks here. It's kind of weird in the sense that it flows kind of upward. I was confused as to why he didn't kind of make it flush and just kind of continue the ceiling down into the wall. I thought that would make sense, but you know, it's whatever, it looks fine. And over here on the other window, this was also plastered and it looks perfect, you know, pretty good down to here. It's like a shelf thing where it's perfectly perpendicular from the wall, then it's perfectly straight up, and then there's like a weird angle thing going on here. I mean, it's fine, like it does the job. Dad and I even thought about like putting a shelf there or something just to make use of this space, but you know, it's fine, it does the job. Here you can see some of my expert paintwork in action. Oy. Outside of that, one pretty significant change that happened in this room is that the latch that was there, that used to lead into the attic, has been moved into the hall. So that kind of overtook everything else and needed to be the first thing done before any other renovations in this room, because when that was moved, what was left was a hole that needed to be plastered over. So that needed to be done before the plasterers came, before I could paint, before I could do the carpet, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it turns out you can just do that. You could just take a door and just move it. I had absolutely no part in helping with that. That was all Dad. Honestly, I didn't have anything to do with any of the renovations that happened in this room so far. Literally the only thing I've done to contribute to anything that's changed in here is move the stuff out, which is, you know, whatever, and this terrible paint job, which even now I'm trying to offload it because, like, God. Also, this mattress is in here. This will be my future double bed, but for now it's the single one. The bed frame is out in the hall. But yeah, I told myself that, you know, this will be my reward for actually getting the room painted. I'll actually upgrade to a better bed, and that's the state of this room at the moment. So the question then is, what's with the delay? Like, what's taking so long? Why has so little happened in here? Well, last year, in terms of progress for this room, was really frustrating. The first half of the year, nothing could get done because I couldn't afford to do anything. I graduated in computer science last year, and anyone who's graduated from that recently knows that the job market, especially for like the entry level, is horrible. It's abysmal at the moment. It's extremely difficult to actually get work in that field. And I spent the first 6 months of last year just looking for work and I couldn't find any of it. It was immensely frustrating, not just because I felt like my career and my like professional life was on pause, but also because all of this was on pause. All of the room progress, all of the Lego City project, all of the Lego thing in general was just on pause because I was just waiting. That's just how last year was for the most part. I eventually gave up on the whole software development, computer science thing, and just got a job in a factory for a few months about halfway through last year because I thought, I'm sick of this. I want to get stuff done and I can't just waiting around for something to happen. And sure enough, I had that job for 2 months before I got very lucky and landed a job in the field. So I'm doing that now and I'm very happy there. The only problem with that is it's only part-time for the moment. There's talk about moving to full-time at some point this year, and I'm hoping that does happen, or at the very least that I get more days. But until then, I'm only working part-time. So I don't really have the funds to do all of this as quickly as I would like, basically. Now that does have advantages too. Working 2 or 3 days a week is lovely. I feel like the work-life balance is pretty perfect. I have a lot of time to dedicate to projects like this, but it's just been busy. You know, December was like a write-off in terms of the amount of stuff that I had to do. But yeah, the plan this year anyway, and hopefully all the pieces are in line so that there isn't further delay. I need to paint this room. And once I paint this room, then I just need to get someone in to carpet it, and we're good. And from that point on, it's just a case of me saving money to like get it furnished. And that's something that I can try to do right now, but it'll be a lot easier when I get more days at work. So yeah, that's the state of this room at the moment. There really isn't much to show, but you know, the pieces are set. I can just get cracking on it and I can actually make some meaningful progress for next year. But yeah, thanks for watching.